Hopelessly Insane Genius, Dr. Rotwell, Origin explained. There is no great genius without a touch of madness. Aristotle expressed this belief over 300 years before the Common Era began, and human beings the world over seem to have simply accepted this statement as fact. The idea that there is a thin line that separates genius from insanity is something every creative aspirant has toyed with, no matter how scientifically inaccurate the concept of a mad scientist might be. Comic book creators never shy away from giving us a glimpse of what would happen if, say, the leader of Marvel's first family ends up becoming a sadistically warped multiversal supervillain. James Logan Howlett has suffered many abuses in his life because of his unique existence. His ungodly healing factor makes Wolverine nearly impossible to kill, so his adversaries target the one part of his being that they know they can exploit, however they see fit, his mind. Before Charles Xavier came along and installed powerful psionic blockers in Logan's mind, antagonists like Professor Thornton and William Stryker broke him mentally and put the pieces back together to meet their own ends, frequently subjecting him to memory wiping and heavy indoctrination, effective enough to drive Logan crazy for a short while. But what Jason Aaron and Yannick Paquette created in 2009 leapfrogs over the thin line separating genius and insanity, and then shreds it to pieces with a chainsaw just to get a kick out of it. Debuting in Wolverine, Weapon X #6, Dr. Rotwell might be just the only person to ever fiddle with Logan's mind and get away with it. And if that doesn't scare you, we don't know what will. This is the Hopelessly Insane Genius, Dr. Rotwell's Origins, explained.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
The Madman Dr. Rotwell, Origin. Amongst the otherworldly cosmic horrors that plague the works of H.P. Lovecraft, there exists a monstrous entity deadlier than Yog-Sothoth, Cthulhu, and Azathoth, or any outer and or elder god, the simple yet mortifying prospect of madness. You see, Lovecraft's literary works revolve around the concept of cosmicism, the idea that in relation to the universe and the multitude of beings that populate it, human life is so insignificant that it should terrify us to our very core. But if we were to follow that line of thought, then an even more horrifying prospect awaits us. Human life is inherently propped up on two pillars, reality and rationality. We work, eat, sleep, and repeat every cycle of behavior based on the preconceived notion that these actions give meaning to our lives. When people realize how meaningless their lives truly are, they give up on order and give into insanity, and that is where you will find the real horror of H.P. Lovecraft's novels. If we were to go by that metric, then Dr. Rotwell is the loftiest Lovecraftian villain to ever hit the pages of a comic book. Born Bentley Newton, Rotwell was spared the traumatic experiences that a character from the Cthulhu mythos usually experienced before going insane, because he was born that way. As a child, he tried to create a zombie after drilling a hole into a cat's skull and filling it with battery acid. His plan failed, but his determination only intensified. By the time he was 13, it was clear that the boy was highly unstable, as he burned a man to death and ran away laughing from the experience, enthralled by it. At some point in time, he was institutionalized at the Dunwich Sanatorium, where he was declared incurable and quarantined in a ward built specifically to contain him. The sanatorium staff deemed isolation the best course of action because they had never seen a specimen like Newton, utterly without fear, but also absolutely off his rocker. The longer he stuck around the other patients, the more his madness would rub off on them, and the consequences of that will be unspeakable to say the least. However, in true Lovecraftian fashion, Newton's insanity begins infecting the other residents of the sanatorium, driving them to their breaking point, and instigating a riot that put the madman in charge of the madhouse. Changing his name to Algernon J. Rotwell, an homage to two key literary contributors to the Cthulhu mythos, he replaced the slaughtered doctors and nurses with the patients, and assumed his role as Dr. Rot, the maniacal brain-harvesting neurologist who was now in charge of the Dunwich Sanatorium. Using his new gained position, Rotwell started conducting experiments on humans that would make even Orochimaru squirm, all in an effort to keep the sanatorium's cover intact. It was a breeding ground for hitmen and assassins, while thoroughly pursuing his twisted vision of medical science. To keep his life's work going, Rotwell needed brains, which he procured from a homeless shelter in San Francisco. That's how he popped up on reporter Melita Garner's radar, and consequently Wolverine's. Sadly, for both of them, this was one tracking mission Logan wouldn't be coming back from unscathed. The man formerly known as Weapon X would be forced to relive his worst nightmare at the hands of the Mad Doctor many times over after he was incapacitated and captured from the shelter and brought to the sanatorium. Rotwell's experiments were unlike anything Logan had previously endured, and he had been brainwashed, manipulated, and lied to pretty much his entire life. He completely subdued Logan to the point where he became tame and pried deep enough into his brain to uncover secrets even he didn't know were there. Although Logan was able to regain control of his mind thanks to Psylocke and Nightcrawler and a nearly disemboweled Dr. Rotwell, after he managed to escape with something that would make Logan's life a living hell. Dr. Rotwell is using Wolverine to commit murders. See, when Rotwell was subjecting Logan's exposed brain to amounts of electricity that will make a regular person explode, he found something buried deep within his consciousness. If you've seen any MCU film featuring the Winter Soldier, you know that his villainy wasn't exactly a choice. When he was captured by the Soviets, or rather Hydra, Bucky was subjected to extreme mental and physical torture that essentially left him a blank slate. His handlers programmed his now broken mind to respond to a set of words that would trigger instant subservience to them, priming him for his next assassination. Weapon X did pretty much the same thing to Logan, except they buried so many protocols in his brain that Dr. Rotwell was instantly transfixed by his scans. He used the knowledge he gained to implant a few commands of his own. After escaping, Dr. Rot gave a call to Logan and uttered an unrevealed phrase that caused Logan to lose all sense of consciousness and become Rotwell's personal brain harvester. Under the influence of Rotwell's conditioning, Logan embarked on a shockingly massive killing spree across the United States, killing and harvesting the minds of dozens of people for Rot's ultimate creation. Thanks to his psionic blockers and years of experience dealing with telepaths, Logan is aware of what he is doing. Unfortunately, that makes it all the more upsetting that he is unable to resist the Pavlovian response the trigger phrase elicits. We've seen Wolverine being influenced or outright controlled by malevolent handlers before, but never have we seen one programming take hold of him so insistently. Even after locating the Mad Doctor and his equally crazy family, Logan almost lost himself yet again. Rotwell captured the unsuspecting leader of the X-Force and programmed his brain to take on the personality of Tater, one of his other pet projects. Eventually, Logan was able to overcome the psionic manipulation and take out all of Rotwell's extended family, including the man himself. He leaves the Rotwell family home a changed man, having lost more pieces of himself in the process of putting down yet another crazed menace to society. Or so it seems anyway, because Wolverine's number 308's final panel shows Dr. Rotwell comes back to life well and ready to toy with Logan yet again. If what we've seen from him already is any indication, Logan will need more than mental blockers to overcome Rotwell's gruesome tricks and tactics. Why Dr. Rotwell is so dangerous. Superhuman strength, speed, reflexes, flight, laser beams, fundamental force manipulation. The very thought of this man possessing any of those abilities sends shivers racing down our spine. Unlike many Marvel villains, Dr. Rotwell is 100% human. No enhancements, no mutation, no billions of dollars in the bank, nothing. And that's for the best, because if he can treat the legendary Wolverine like his personal plaything without powers, we don't want to imagine what he would do if he had powers. Rotwell's greatest weapon also happens to be the very thing that got him locked up in Dunwich in the first place: his sick, sadistic, revolting, brilliant mind. Rotwell is an exceptionally skilled scientist and a highly efficient doctor, capable of performing precise brain surgeries and clean amputations without a medical degree. Unfortunately, his subjects aren't recommended either of those things out of necessity. Rotwell's object of obsession is the human mind. Capable of processing more information than a supercomputer, the brain is an organ we haven't even begun to fully understand. Rotwell treats it like the back of his hand. He can keep people alive for multiple hours after removing their brains, brainwash them to an astonishingly effective degree, create entire machines using the brains he has harvested, and is working hard on creating the God Brain Machine, a mega collection of scores of brains, powerful enough to render Professor X's psionic blockers ineffective and penetrate the psyche of a telepath as powerful as Psylocke, although she manages to disarm the machine before it goes off. He also created the flesh puppets using gray matter he retrieved directly from Logan's brain. These xenomorph-esque meat monsters can shapeshift and take the appearance of people close to Logan, disorienting him mid-fight and leaving him wide open. Additionally, because they're grown from parts of Logan's brain, their creation caused him to lose many of his memories, which can be very dangerous for a man who has as many enemies as him. Rotwell's regular brain machines aren't any less of a nuisance, as they allow the Mad Doctor to go through and manipulate a person's memories, and can also act as surveillance drones for him. He can craft psionic bombs from brains that render their targets uncontrollably insane for 30 seconds, long enough enough to make them regret what they were doing, while Rotwell gives them the slip. The God Brain machine functions like both of these creations in conjunction. Rotwell always carries a pair of giant nutcrackers to easily retrieve brains from his selected samples. It also doubles as a nasty blunt force melee weapon, so you better watch your back, or rather your head. If he weren't batshit crazy, we'd have tacked on pain immunity onto the list, because he was able to survive an intestine spilling slash from Wolverine, and actually proceeded to strangle the man with his own guts. The payoff issue to number 308 seems to indicate that the God Brain machine can also create clones, which, if confirmed, will take Rotwell's threat from a solid 7 to a scale-breaking 15. Though he possesses no special abilities of his own, it is his ingenuity that makes him such a deadly force to be reckoned with. Dr. Rotwell might not be one of the most recognizable adversaries Logan has gone up against, but he is certainly the most unpredictable out of the lot, and that alone makes him the most dangerous human being on planet Earth.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.